Stews and soups are such a comforting meal, especially during the colder months. So joining us to share some recipes is Rod McConnell from Midwestern Meats, better known as Mr. Sizzle. Hello, Mr. Sizzle.
Happy New Year, Jane. Great to be with you today.
It's great to have you here on the show. All right, I love stews and soups, my favorite meal of all time. Why is it such a favorite for colder months?
You know, Jane, it's a favorite because there's no rules with soups or stews. You can do what you want with them. The creativity, we all love creativity. It's at your fingertips. And Jane, it's like on a cold winter day, you ever got one of those new pair of wool thick socks? The warmth and the comfort, just like that when you're eating stews and soups on a cold day.
Mr. Sizzle, what kind of stews and soups do you have for us today?
Jane, my first one I want to show you is I have a beef stew here today. It's hard to show, but it's beautiful. Key to beef stew, thick stew, and you got to buy flavorful meat. And then second, I've got a chicken noodle soup here, Jane. Now, it's a classic. It's one of the classics, but everyone knows about it. But make it homemade, put some time into it, buy the right products, and guess what? It can still be a wow factor for your meal.
I mean, it's my favorite soup. Who doesn't like chicken noodle soup? Let me ask you this, because this is where I get stuck. As we know, I love to cook and I love my stews, Mr. Sizzle. I'm always confused about the right cut of meat. What am I looking for when I want to make a good beef stew?
Okay, Jane, I'm going to give you a few ideas here. A couple in the beginning are a little creative. A beef shank, Jane, a beef shank. Great flavor. It's got the bone in it, meat, beautiful for soup. Beautiful for anything you want to do with the stew, the soup. Now, out of most people's wheelhouse, Jane, is the oxtail. Most people won't know what to do with that, but it's simple, really the same process. It just creates unbelievable flavor. Give it a try sometime. But now, the number one advice, when you go into the butcher, don't buy their pre-cut stew meat, please. What they're giving you is top round, knuckle. They're giving you real lean meat. Here's what I want you to do, Jane. I want you to buy a chuck roast. Okay, now a chuck roast is very marbled, and there's two reasons for that, for getting that chuck roast. Number one, the flavor. With the marbling, it's beautiful flavor. And number two, isn't it great to say, hey kid, come cut this chuck roast up and get them involved in the process. It makes it fun when we're eating it. Yeah, I cut that down. That's my advice for the stew, Jane. Chuck roast.
And then a quick question too, when we're thinking about buying that piece of meat, do we buy a pound? Do we buy 2 pounds? Do we buy 4 pounds? Like if you're feeding a family of 4, what's the recommended size we buy?
You know what? If you go by per ounces, you want to do about 8 ounces per person approximately.
And one of my favorite things to do is when you make this big meal is having the leftovers. And if those leftovers don't get eaten, you put them in the freezer.
Yes, ma'am. And here's what I do. I put them in a quart container just like this. And that quart container, I got a family of 3 with a daughter at Ole Miss right now. That quart feeds us little saltine crackers. Put it in the bowl, naturally unthaw it, in the bowl, cracker, microwave. It's a good meal, Jane, and it's easy.
You're so awesome. Thank you so much for all those scrumptious ideas.
Right on, Jane. Everybody eat better.
I love it. For more information, just head over to Midwestern Meats website.